Guys, what's the crack? You gotta act aggressive early if you want to retire early. When it comes to Bitcoin, just walking across the bridge here. So Bitcoin has insane volatility, and people who understand traditional investing, they don't like the volatility. However, the reason I'm retired early in Spain for the next month is because of volatility. See, volatility is what makes you rich. Volatility is what allows you to retire early, if you understand it. Most people don't understand volatility, and they have the traditional investor's mindset, okay? I took everything in traditional investing, all the fundamentals, all the principles, brought it to the digital assets, okay? But you have to tweak some things. Some things don't quite work in traditional investing, okay? And one of the things, because I had spoke with 2 clients today, and I've sort of these principles that I try and communicate to the guys, and one of them is that you have to act aggressive early. No matter when you discover Bitcoin, once you decide, I'm going to be part of this thing, I'm going to get a position in this thing, I'm going to build a plan B pension, it makes fundamental sense to be aggressive early, okay? And that means if you've got, and one of the questions I get is, didn't you just tell me how much Bitcoin I got to buy? What's the figure? Like, is it 10 grand, 20 grand, 100 grand? What is it? The amount doesn't matter. What matters is the percentage, okay? So what you got to do is, and this is what I teach my clients, we calculate your net worth, okay, to find out how much you're worth. And the minimum, the absolute minimum of Bitcoin that you need to own is 1% of your net worth, okay? So if you're worth 100 grand, you only need to own a grand's worth of Bitcoin, or whatever the maths are, okay? And you can figure that out. So 1% is the absolute minimum, which means you can have 99% of your wealth in other inferior assets that aren't increasing in purchasing power, although in nominal terms, in euro terms, they're going up, and that fools you into thinking you're getting ahead, but in purchasing power terms, you're losing. Think of all the people who own bonds, okay? People are high-fiving each other because bonds are paying out 5% now, 6% on these treasuries, these 10-year treasuries. Like, you're going to see that thing to term, you're going to get your 6%, and inflation's going to have been running at 10% for a decade. You just lost a load of money, and you think you're a genius. This is how stupid most of the world is, guys. They don't think in purchasing power, they're only thinking, they're using euros or dollars as measuring tools, and they're terrible measuring tools, as I always tell you, because they're constantly changing, okay? So you got to think in purchasing power terms. So 1%, this isn't financial advice, okay? Some might say this is just common sense, but 1% is the absolute minimum exposure that you need to Bitcoin. So if you come to that conclusion, you're like, okay, well, I know my net worth, and I know 1% of that is, so that's how much Bitcoin I need to own. How do you get there? My advice is you get there as fast as you can, okay? You don't dilly-dally, because Bitcoin's always going up. Yes, there's volatility, but every 4 years the thing has this new floor, where everyone goes wrong, guys. Do me a favour, I'm just out getting a walk in. There's a little bit of drizzle here now, I don't know if you can notice. Look at that. The mountains up there, you can actually see the snow on them. You can't see it now because it's the cloud is low. But in the mornings, the sun is beyond them. And they're beautiful. Surf's amazing now today. Surf's been really good. Got 2 surfs in already. My arms are sore trying to hold the phone. So where people go wrong is they want Bitcoin as cheap as possible. Okay? And this is just this is why humans are terrible at investing. Okay, because they'll always get it wrong. They want the cheapest possible Bitcoin. I have to get it the cheapest. I have to buy the bottom. I'm going to sit in the sidelines and wait. My friend said this. I heard it's going to crash. This is all nonsense. When you have this attitude, okay, none of these people that have this attitude are retired. None of them are. They all still work, okay? They're counting their pennies, okay? You've got to just accept. This is another little dinny bomb. There's a rite of passage in owning Bitcoin that you've got to own it, okay? And it's got to trade down, all right? And once you've served your 4-year apprenticeship, you've been in Bitcoin for 4 years, it doesn't matter what it does, okay? Because there's a high likelihood that the thing is 5, 10x, whatever, above the price you entered it at. Now, at the moment, we've all this institutional interest, all sitting on the sidelines, okay? News came out there 2 weeks ago that the spot ETF got approved. And I think it was in 5 minutes, Bitcoin went up 5 grand in 5 minutes on unofficial news. Like, lads, if you don't know what's coming, wait till there's actually an official announcement, and that candle's going to rip your arse off. It literally is, like, but it's so obvious. They've given you a dress rehearsal. You've seen what's going to happen, and yet people wait and they sit in the sidelines. They procrastinate. Oh, I could have bought it 15 grand, and I could have bought it $1,000, and yeah, so what? As I said to one of my clients there today, it was like the people at 100 grand think it's expensive, but like when it's $1 million, people will wish they bought it for 100 grand. Just like today, when it's 30 grand, people wish they bought it for 3 grand, and it's just the same. And when it's 3 grand, people wish they bought it for 300, and when it was 300, people wish they bought it for 30. None of this matters, you see. We compute that 30 grand's a lot of money, 100 grand's a lot of money. That doesn't matter to Bitcoin. You've got to change your thinking here. This is just maths. Okay, it's just what is the amount of capital that sits inside the asset class. And at the moment, this thing is a tiny little baby. Okay, Michael Saylor reckons it's got to be worth at least 1% of the assets in the world. That takes it well into 6 or 7 figures just to get to 1%. I think he's being very bearish there. He's just sort of not trying to be hyperbolic, but you know, it's obvious it's going to be worth 1%, if not more, way more than that. It's going to engulf everything because nothing performs. Everything else on the planet, remember, we can make more of. Every good, every service, every commodity, we can create more of. Bitcoin is the only thing. Bitcoin and your time are the only two things that are finite that you can't create more of. Okay? And that's why it makes sense when you understand that the thing is monetizing, when you understand that once that SEC news drops, you've missed an opportunity. You haven't missed it forever, but you doubled your time to retirement. Doubled it! So if you're going to get there in 10 years, now it's 20 years. If you're going to get there in 5 years, now it's 10 years. Okay, and remember, your time's precious, so you got to act fast. That's the exact strategy I used once I got my head around this thing. Years ago, I done exactly the same thing. So it doesn't matter when you do it. Okay, it doesn't matter, obviously sooner is better than later, but it was the exact same thing that I done myself. I figured it out. I says, okay, I'm going to be part of this thing. I'm going to make the bet, and I'm not going to dilly-dally. I don't need to get the very cheapest Bitcoin because I know it's ahead of this thing. I just need to acquire it today. Because if I sit in the sidelines, like many people did when Bitcoin was trading at 20 grand, okay, because all the traders told them it was going to 10, and then it went to 15, they still didn't buy because all the traders said it was going to 6, and then they piled in at 30 grand. So they literally cost themselves, you know, whatever that is, a large percentage. They took a haircut on hundreds of thousands in 10 years time on returns because they're trying to save, you know, 4, 5, 6 grand. Would you bet 4, 5, 6 grand? Or would you bet hundreds of thousands to win 4, 5 or 6 grand? Nobody would. If you went to the bookies and you slid on 500 grand under the counter and the girl scratched her head and said, you know, this is to win like 2 grand. Are you crazy? But people do that all the time because we're really bad investors. Okay? We don't understand the long game. We don't understand the exponential growth and the potential of this thing. Anyway, my job is to knock it into people's skull. And I certainly done that today with my clients and gave them a clear perspective to actually make the decision that they've been procrastinating about, because the worst thing that you can do is procrastinate. Procrastinating punishes you, okay? It's riskier to procrastinate than it is to actually pull the trigger, okay? And you can work out the amount of risk you want to take on your bet, but it's riskier to procrastinate and do nothing than it is to actually just pull the trigger, and then you can just get on with your life. The job is done. But guys, hope you have a super day today. Hit the like button, try and push this content out there. Most Irish people don't own Bitcoin. Most Irish people don't understand Bitcoin. They listen to the newspaper headlines, and meanwhile the world's smartest hedge fund managers are all buying as much as they can. Okay, banks are lobbying regulators to change the rules so they can hold more of it, and the biggest financial institution on the planet is applying to build a Bitcoin product that's going to open Bitcoin up to institutions, and you're going to have whatever there is, I don't know, 50,000, 100,000 people on Wall Street. Do you ever see The Wolf of Wall Street? All on the phones. Everything's on incentives. At the moment, there's no incentive for I'll finish with Dinny Bomb. At the moment, there's no incentive for a financial advisor to teach about Bitcoin because they can't earn anything off it. Okay? I've got a fiduciary duty to my clients, so I just give them the best information. Okay, but I don't get a cut off anything that they buy. But once the spot ETF is launched, all these advisors, all 50,000 of them, Wall Street's best salespeople, they're going to be selling Bitcoin. They're going to be hopping the phone off you know, like Wolf of Wall Street, just lashing it out, getting people to buy as much Bitcoin as possible. Okay, and they'll be ringing up multi-millionaires. So they won't be buying 5 grand or 10 grand, they'll be buying 5 million or 10 million. Wait till you see what that starts to do to the price, plus all the institutional interest that gets to come in. So that's all ahead of us. We know all this is happening. It's clear as day. It's not, there's no more unknowns. It's not like back in 2019 or 2020 when it was like, oh, Bitcoin might be banned, oh, Bitcoin mightn't make it, oh, regulation could clamp down on it. No, we've had all the answers to that. It's like, now you've all the information, you have all the information, all you have to do is take the action. It's like it's the most obvious thing I've ever seen in my life. It's the irony is that people will miss it, that majority of people will miss the opportunity, and it's cruel, but I suppose that's the job of mainstream news. Keep you fat, sick and poor. Guys, have a super day. Thanks for being here. Share the content. Dinny out.